Good afternoon, everybody. I'm getting ready for a little job search live today. This is Hannah Morgan. I'm here a little bit early because I just wanted to make sure I could get in, and we're here doing it. So if you are here with me, I would love to hear from you. If you can just say hey in the chat box, go ahead and leave a comment and say I'm here and where you're from. That would be great. And we'll get started in a few minutes, but I just wanted to be here. So hold tight. Hey, Aileen, great to see you. I was just in Virginia Beach a couple, 3 weeks ago. It was beautiful, warm and sunny. I didn't see anything other than a lacrosse field while I was there, but it looks like a really charming environment. We came from Maryland, over the bay, right, and under the water, and then back on the bridge. It was a fun experience. I thought someone was telling me that it was sort of scary. I'm like, oh, I didn't think it was scary. And I'm wondering, do you know, is that bridge tunnel longer than the bridge from to Key West or to the Keys? Is that a longer bridge than the one on the Keys? Oh, Vicky, hi. What time is it there? It's late. Shouldn't you be in bed? How are you? Good to see you. It sure is a beautiful bridge, though, right? So, Eileen, we'll just leave it at that. About 3 minutes till I get started. If you haven't yet seen the summary Sunday that I'm going to be talking about today, that's in the chat. You can click on that link and we can follow along with me if you want. Um, it was a sort of a thought-provoking summary Sunday, so I hope you all enjoyed it. I love putting that together every week. So, oh, it's not that late. Good. Okay. I was worried, Vicky, that it was going to be 11:57 p.m. there. Okay, so it's just five. Good. Enjoy your dinner as we chat along. Oh, Aileen, the temperature dropped, huh? We got some snow last night. Not enough to accumulate, but the grass is all snowy. So, but you probably don't get a lot of snow down there in Virginia Beach, I bet. Okay, well, we'll get started in about a minute here. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Hannah Morgan. Great to be here. Happy Monday, and welcome to the conversation around this week's Summary Sunday Perspectives on Job Search. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for being here. If you want to just tell me where you're from, there are a couple people who logged in early today and they are chiming in. So if you want to join and tell me where you're coming from, that would be great. It's always fun to see. And hey, who knows, there might be an opportunity for some networking. So, this week's Summary Sunday Perspectives on Job Search. Let me just start by saying that I am a little bit surprised that people are acting like this is all brand new, that there is bias against unemployed job seekers. They're acting like this has never happened before. It happens every single time we have a crisis. It happened in 2009, 10, 11, 12. So I'm not sure why people are shocked by this. It is something that has been going on for quite a long time. And this is not the first time that it's happened, but maybe it is the first time for some people experiencing it firsthand. Lesson learned. Here's what we all need to really think about, and what I want you to be want the takeaway from today's session to be are a couple things. First and foremost, you will be unemployed again. That's just the way the world of work works. So, what you have to realize is that if you do not have a vibrant network, a lot of connections that you stay in contact with, at this point you know what it's like. You know how difficult and painful it is to rebuild those connections and those contacts. Don't ever let that die again, because you will be in job search mode again and you will need this. If you are ever in a hiring seat, I don't want you ever to look at somebody's resume and say, gosh, they were unemployed for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. I wonder what they did. Don't ever ask that question again, because that is part of the reason that biases exist, right? We're holding the fact that somebody has been unemployed during a very difficult time against them. Who knows? Maybe they lost a loved one. And here we are judging their ability to head back into the workforce because they've got a gap on their resume. You've got to be kidding me. This has happened before. It happened in 2008, 9, 10, 11, and it's happening again. And we just need to make it all stop, because these are unusual times. And just because someone has been out of work for 3, 6, 9, 12 months does not mean they are damaged goods. But that, unfortunately, has been the perspective of hiring managers and recruiters for a very long time. Shame on them. So that's what I've got to say about that. In this week's summary, there was a great article about getting noticed by online recruiters, which was important. Why writing better cover letters and thank you messages is particularly important during this pandemic. And let me go to that article, which was written by Top Resume. They did some research with hiring managers, and they were asking their opinions. And you can go read the whole article yourself, which is linked in the article. But what the survey really found is that recruiters and hiring managers are putting more emphasis on not only, as I point out in the quote, the thank you message, but also in the cover letter. So what this is telling me from my seat is that they're looking at the skills on the resume, but they can't get a feel of what the person is all about. And so they're looking for some glimpse in that cover letter that will help the recruiter or hiring manager understand what the motivation is of that candidate. What makes them tick? Why do they want to work here? Those are the kinds of questions that your cover letter should answer, not just, I'm highly qualified for the job. Here are a couple of reasons why. Give me a call. That's not enough. Employers want to know why. Why do you want to work for them? And if you can't tell them why, then there's a handful of other people that they can go look at that will tell them why. So that means, as a job seeker, before you take any time to apply for a job, you've got to do some research about the company to figure out why you do want to work there. So, when you are concluding an interview, I have heard some interesting thoughts on the interview thank you note. I don't care. I don't think anybody really cares if the person gets it within 24 hours or 36 hours. I think what's important is that you do it. So I've heard people say, yeah, I pre-write my thank you note in the car. I go put sort of a final thought on it, and then I run it back in and drop it off with the receptionist or somebody at the front desk. I'm like, well, wait a second. Writing a thank you is really your chance to seal the deal and tell the person why you really believe you're a fit for that job after the conversation. So there's no way you can write that before you go in because the conversation is going to reveal a lot during the interview. And it's a chance for you to really connect with the person that interviewed you. What did they say that really stuck with you? What was it about the team people that you met, the fellow teammates that you wanted to sort of encapsulate and say why that you'd be great working alongside them. That thank you really can't happen in a very quick turnaround, nor does it have to be handwritten. I know it's a nice personal touch, but usually those note cards are just this big, and you've got more like that kind of length to say in your thank you. Like, thank you so much for the interview, one paragraph. This is my takeaway from our interview, second paragraph. This is why I might like, and this is what we did or did not review that makes me still a great fit for the position. And thanks so much. We'll stay in touch and blah, 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 final closing. If there's anything that I can answer for you in the meantime, before you're making your decision, please feel free to reach out. That's your final line. So, to be able to write all that by hand in a note card that you're then going to mail is if you can do that, great. I don't think it has to be sent to the US mail. If you want to email it and send it through the US mail, that's great, or the post. Well, I think this study is pointing out is that saying thank you is important so that people understand why you are interested after the interview in that position still. All right. That's what you're trying to tell them because that's the stuff that people don't know. I mean, I've had a great interview with you, but I don't know why you're interested in the job. Did you tell me during the interview? Probably not, which you should. Let the person know. Tell them. And I do that because we're afraid to wear our heart in our sleeve. We don't want to put that information out there because we're afraid that they may reject us and then we're vulnerable because we put it out there that we really wanted this job and why we wanted it, and then they didn't select us. And so we feel jolted like a relationship. But the employer wants to see why you want to work there. So it's important. Um, Okay, so that was that really interesting article about the importance of the cover letter and the thank you. In the olden days, I don't know, pre-pandemic, we used to refer to soft skills as those sort of warm, fuzzy kind of things about you that you work well with others, that you know, those personal traits and characteristics and some of the soft skills. But recently, during the pandemic, I have been noticing more and more people like Josh Bersin refer to the soft skills more as power skills. The hard skills, the technology that you know, the work-related processes and procedures you know, those are all fine. But I think what is important to companies right now is how well can you work remotely? That's more of a soft skill. How motivated are you to do the job on your own without somebody managing you right in the same office? These kinds of things are the power skills or the soft skills that employers are looking for, as well as the hard skills, but they're paying more attention to these soft skills because they realize that these power skills are going to make or break somebody's ability to be successful in a new role, which is starting remotely, and that will have to be taking, the person will be have to be taking a lot of initiative. So I am hoping that you take some time and rethink what it is you put in your cover letter and in your thank you letter to make it more powerful with power skills. Oh, and then the next conversation that I mentioned was the perspectives in the current job market with Andrew Seaman. And so my friend Mark Miller interviewed Andrew Seaman, the editor of Get Hired, LinkedIn's editor of Get Hired. And I always like listening to Andrew because Andrew is like a collector of information from all different places. He has like first look at the LinkedIn data that's coming out. He also is hearing from a variety of different job seekers that are responding to what he's sharing out there. And he gets to speak with job search coaches and recruiters and things like that. So he's a great central focus repository of information. So I hope you have a chance to listen to Mark's podcast with Andrew Seaman, which is there. The next article was about interviewing and taking notes during an interview. And I was and thank you to Dorothy Dalton for asking me for my feedback. And I clearly spelled out what my feelings were in her article that she quoted me in, but lots of other people chimed in too. And I want you to go read that because it's important to understand that you and I might believe that taking notes is totally fine, but what if the hiring manager or the person interviewing you across the table or on the other side of the screen doesn't feel the same way? What if they don't want to see you taking notes? Have you just potentially hurt your chance as a candidate because you did something that potentially offended them or sent the wrong signal? So I want you to read that article by Dorothy Dalton at 3 Plus International about should candidates take and read notes in the interviews or not. And she's of the belief that most people should not be taking copious notes that and make you end up looking like this. I don't know if you can see me how I do that, but if you're taking notes in a way that might be less obvious, I guess it's okay. But if you're there taking notes like this and you're trying to interview, that's not really very effective because the purpose of the interview is for you and me to make eye contact. So that's what we want to have happen. That's really important during the interview. And when I was on Dr. Dawn's show this week, one of the people that she had that called into her show was somebody who had listened to a previous week where Dr. Dawn was talking about tips for video interviewing. And one of the things the guy said was, you know what, it's so hard to look at the camera, but I realized that that was something that I wasn't doing and it made a huge difference and he got the job. So I said, yeah, I've known people who put googly eyes on either side of their camera on their laptop so that they know to stay focused and look at the camera. Because, I mean, if I'm back here, I guess you can't really tell where I'm looking, but you can, right? I'm not looking at the camera now, and you can tell that I'm looking at myself, but when I look at the camera, you can tell. So it makes a big difference for establishing a relationship to actually look at the camera. Video interviewing 101, look at the camera. And if you need to put googly eyes there, then that's great. And you all know what I'm talking about with the googly eyes, right? Those little stickers that move around, but they don't really. Okay. Um, all right. I was just checking. Hey, Michael Evan, good to see you. Jody, good to see you. Hi, Marina. Nice to meet you. Heidi, nice to see you. Craig, oh my gosh, hello. Oh, and Marina, you're from Italy. Wow. So it's probably evening there for you too. It's so fun to see. Oh, hi Trisha, good to see you. It's really fun to see people I recognize and know here in today's chat. So thank you for letting me know that you're here and watching. Um, Okay, so that was on the interviewing and note taking, and it's about understanding how different people have different ways of thinking about that, and that's the perspective of and what you need to understand. The next article was about how to use Zoom like a pro. I'll say were only one or two little tidbits in there. I knew them all, but maybe I know more than the average bear. Um, I think that it's worth a quick skim. I think my favorite trick that I learned, and I can't remember who I learned it from. It was on a Zoom call I did long, long ago, early in the pandemic, was to use the space bar to unmute yourself. It's almost like a walkie-talkie. So if you mute yourself and you want to talk, you just press and hold down the space bar while you talk, and then you take your finger off the space bar, and then you're muted again. So if you're involved in a meeting and you just want to say a quick something, that's a great way to do that. That's the secret that I learned. It's also in that article. So hopefully other people, maybe there's some other things that you'll learn in that. It was helpful. Carrie Hannon asked Dan Schabel for access to some of his research that he does. Dan Schabel does a lot of great workplace research, and so Dan had recently done some research on stress in different age groups in the workplace, and so that's what this was about. And the good news about this article, which is called uh, older workers are working from home more successfully than their younger colleagues, is that the older worker is usually, based on the data that Dan Chabel looked at and Carrie wrote about, that the older worker is generally better off, more stable, less stressed by this pandemic and working remotely. Actually, I shouldn't say this pandemic. I will say by working remotely. It is the younger generation that's having a really difficult time and feeling very stressed, more stressed than the older worker about working remotely. And I think there are probably some good reasons for that. And we could sort of look at, experience as a wonderful teacher, though none of us have really been through this kind of a situation before. We've been through awkward situations before, and we've learned that everything sort of comes out and okay somehow in the end. And we just learn to ask more questions and do what we need to do. We've been through all kinds of weird scenarios in our careers. So for us, this is weird, but maybe not as stressful and weird as somebody who is just starting their career with very little work experience. They're still trying to figure out what goes on in an organization and how to work the political ladder and all that. And then the pandemic hits, and a lot of the younger workers are struggling with this. So I think what that should hopefully tell you is that employers are figuring this out too. There are a lot of younger workers who are either resigning, quitting, not showing up because they're stressed out. So if you're an older worker, maybe this is your chance to get yourself in front of people and help them understand how you're more stable and how you've made accommodations for the irregularity of working from home. You don't have maybe younger kids, infants that have to be taken care of as an older worker. So I think there are some advantages to being an older worker right now. And I want you to think about how you can tap into those and make sure they come across during interviews and conversations, how you're really not overly stressed by working remotely. Um, yeah, so then the last article, it takes a little bit more time to read, but I want you to do it because Dina works for a company called, oh shoot. Sorry, Dina, I can't remember. And I've seen it mentioned like 5 times since then. But anyway, the company she works for is sort of trying to pair employers and job seekers in new ways. And what she's suggested is that why a resume is ruining your chance at finding a good hire during the pandemic. So that's the preface of the article. And she goes on to say, you know what, instead of requiring a resume, can employers request maybe a video? Answer to a question that the candidate could submit in place of the interview, or maybe the candidate or potential candidate could do a quick skills assessment or provide an outline of how they would solve a particular problem. I'm not suggesting, nor I think is Dina, that we ask a job seeker to do work for free or to solve in depth a problem. But I think that what has always been the problem for job seekers, because I've heard them say it a million times, is just give me a chance to prove myself. I can do it. I can do this job. So what would you submit if you didn't have to submit a resume? What would you submit instead to prove to somebody that you could do the job? That is a great question. If you didn't have to submit a resume, what would you want to give the hiring manager or recruiter in place of it? and your LinkedIn profile doesn't count. What would you want to share with them? Because I think that that's really the way we should be heading. I had a great conversation with a fellow colleague who is a professional resume writer. And I said, listen, there are too many problems with a resume. People don't know how to write a good one. Um, and they're not good at writing in general. People are not good at writing, and it takes too much time and energy. And job seekers end up obsessing over having the perfect resume, and they work exclusively on that, and they don't network and they don't work on some of the other stuff. Yeah, there are benefits to writing a resume, and I get that. But when you think about how many job seekers obsess over the resume and don't do anything else, it really breaks my heart. And that's why I am a resume hater and have been for a long time, because I think it's an it's not a fair comparison. I have two people who work on a manufacturing line. One has a sister-in-law who wrote his resume for him, and the other wrote it herself. Which person do you think is going to get the job? At least get the interview, right? So there's inequity in that, and I don't like resumes. So yes, Heidi, as a designer, I would love, love, love to take a look at your portfolio rather than seeing a resume, right? Isn't that much more robust? That's your work. So, yes, I would love to see your um, portfolio. So, note to self, Heidi, do you have a link to your portfolio in your LinkedIn profile in a couple of different places? One in the contact information, link to your website, your online portfolio. Two, is it mentioned in your about section with a link to it? Is it in the featured section? So there are several places that you can make that a little bit more prominent so people can see that, see it. So I want you to go read. Anybody else have any ideas of what you would share with a hiring manager to prove you have the skills to do the job? I'd love to see that. Put it in the comment. So that was that Fast Company article. And I hope that we get to a point where it's not just your resume that employers are looking at, that it is other bodies of work that you can potentially submit. That's my fingers are crossed for that and has been for a long time. LinkedIn, if you don't know Bob McIntosh, you should. He has a blog called Things Career Related, and in that he has listed over 80 people who are active on LinkedIn who he recommends job seekers follow. And I'm pleased to be on that list along with the other 79-ish people. It's a great list. If you don't follow those people on LinkedIn, you should. And did you know you can follow people on LinkedIn? LinkedIn didn't used to let you do that. You could only connect with people and join their network. But thank goodness they've done this. So if you like any of the people on Bob Macintosh's list, then you can go to their profile and follow them. Not follow or not connect. Go to the more arrow next to the person's profile, click on that, and you should usually 99 times out of 100 see the ability to follow that person. So whenever they post something on LinkedIn, it will potentially show up in your home feed. So follow people you don't know. You can engage in conversation through chat. It's just as good as being connected, if not better. So those are 80 people on LinkedIn that Bob McIntosh recommends you follow. And then, okay, so let me come back before I go to the last article on this. I'm going to ask you a question, Michael Levin. A networking brief, is that a one-pager sort of overview of who you are? Isn't that information all over your LinkedIn profile anyway? So I would think it's more of a sample of your work, more than a summary of who you are. If somebody wants to figure out who you are, they should just be able to figure that out by reading your LinkedIn profile, right? Your about section, all that. So I would say more samples of work, demonstrations that you have skills. If you have certificates of completion for classes or courses that you've taken, maybe a PowerPoint deck with that stuff in it, and then you can add to the end, as Craig has suggested, you can add some recommendations from LinkedIn. Maybe recent ones or ones that even aren't on LinkedIn, but people have submitted to you based on their work with you that haven't written it anywhere else. So those recommendations could all, along with pictures of your certificates, could all go in a PowerPoint document that you save or as a PDF, and you could attach that and show. So that would be a great idea. But I'm not sure people really want to learn more about you that they can't figure out on LinkedIn. That's my thought. I was talking with somebody the other day who had posted their resume in their featured documents in their featured section of LinkedIn. I said, no, 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 don't do that. You don't need to do that. Your resume is something that you have to customize for every job that you apply to, and so to have sort of this generic document out there is not the greatest use, and people aren't going to click on it. Why would I click on your resume if I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile? I'm getting the same information. If I'm not, there's a problem. It should be on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is open 24/7, right? I don't need to be connected to you to see what you put on your LinkedIn profile 24/7. So it's searchable. Having a LinkedIn profile is so much more valuable than having a pretty looking resume, in my opinion, right? Okay. So the last article was pretty interesting, and I think it's by Dan Cable, who had written this for Harvard Business Review. And he says, using the positive method involves reaching out to people who mean the most to you most to you of times, sharing anecdotes of when they made an impact and asking them to share memories of you being the best version of yourself. You end up with a personal highlight reel, a set of memories of you at your very best. So I get that it is hard to ask somebody that you used to work with for sort of sharing their favorite memories of a time you worked together on a project. But if you go and read this article, Dan lays out you first create the praise or create the right moment and say to this person that you want to praise you or you're looking for their feedback. I so enjoyed working with you on this project 2 years ago when we both had that opportunity and the challenge and how well you managed the transition and change in deadlines and the people that were coming and going. So you sincerely flatter them. And then at the end of this, you say, and I'm hoping that you might be able to shed your own personal perspective or anecdote of how we worked together, what I did well, and what you enjoyed working about me. If you send these kinds of messages to everybody in your network, it's doing a couple of things. One, it gives you that feedback in writing, and you need that. You need to understand how you are being perceived by others you used to work with. Two, you can use that information to help accentuate or word your summary on your LinkedIn About section or your cover letter to better capture the essence of what other people feel about you. And you might be able to use that in other forms moving forward. So we need that kind of highlight reel, a personal highlight reel for our own self-confidence, and it's a great way to stay in touch with people. And you might want that person to actually, that you're reaching out to serve as a reference for you in the future. What a great way to sort of ease into that request, right? So, go read You Need a Personal Highlight Reel because I believe you do too. It's good. It's good stuff. What questions do you have? Um, Jody, I'm glad that you've started following some of the people that you hadn't followed from Bob's list. That's great. Anybody have any questions this week that you want me to talk about, digest, just work through with you? Anything? I'm here. I know there's a delay, so I'm gonna give you guys a second or two. It's almost 12:30, so we'll be ending this in a couple of minutes. But I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to make sure that if you do have questions, that I'm able to answer. Um, Aileen, if you are you you can let me see if I can find a way to put that on here. There's a link to all of my, if you go to the top of the page on Facebook, you should see a tab that says live. and it lists all my live. Let me see if I can find it and I can share it with you. It's sometimes hard to find that. But there is all of the lives are up at the top through a live button. Or videos. You might be able to find it through videos at the top. I recently started posting them to YouTube, so the more recent ones are there. Um, Let me see if I can. Oh, here, let me see if I can share this with you, Aline. See if that works, Aline. Hey, Craig, it was great seeing you. Victoria, wonderful seeing you all here. Thank you. Make it a great week. I hope everything goes well. Chin up. You've got this. You can do it. It's going to be a great week. Have fun.